Okay. Um, so I'll talk about the technology. I'll start a little bit, though, broader in terms of what we're doing here. As was discussed by the Vice Fleet Commander of 2nd Fleet, this is an exercise that's occurring from Camp Lejeune all the way up to Maine. We are demonstrating and rehearsing our ability to fight in a maritime campaign at the high end of the conflict spectrum. It's important that we do this because we're always trying to build readiness with our naval partners, our joint partners, and our coalition partners. And so the Marine Corps part of this, the Marine Air Ground Task Force, so including the ground element, the aviation element, the logistics element, and elements from our MEF information group, what we attempt to do is establish locations ashore, expeditionary advanced bases, that we can support the maritime fight from. So we'll set up sensors ashore, we'll set up fires ashore, we'll set up logistics ashore that support the fleet's ability to establish sea control and sea denial up and down, in this case, the eastern seaboard. But in the scenario, this is a contested strategic waterway with multiple adversaries that have high-end capabilities. So that's what we're doing here. Now, some of the unique capabilities that we increasingly are employing in training, whether we're here in Camp Lejeune or abroad, is how we utilize our unmanned aviation systems, so small UAS in particular, and our counter UAS systems. And so we will be experimenting here using systems that we use all the time and experimenting with some new capabilities, particularly from a counter UAS perspective. The other thing I would mention is in a high-end fight, from a naval joint and combined perspective, a lot of it today and in the future is about how you share data. So when you sense something out there with whatever the sensor is, your ability to share that data with a shooter or something that can kinetically or non-kinetically affect the target that you have sensed, and passing that data seamlessly and rapidly to a naval, joint, or coalition asset to support you is extremely important, and it's also extremely challenging. So there's some things we're doing during this exercise to focus on that. So when the time comes to actually operate in conflict or crisis for real, we're not learning these things for the first time.
You mentioned counter UAS systems. What are some of those specific systems that you're using and testing today?
Yeah, so what we're going to test during the exercise is our ability to use kamikaze drones to take out other small UAS.
And is that something that proves to be especially important in today's global threat environment?
Absolutely. I think you have to assume if you're going to deploy anywhere around the globe today, whether you're in training or conflict or crisis, you should expect to see robots, drones, and other things flying around you. And the ability to detect whether they're friendly or not, and your ability to kinetically or non-kinetically affect those is extremely important.
What has changed from the way this year's exercise is being done versus the way previous year's exercises were being done?
Well, I think all of us, my partners here, we're all paying attention to what's going on around the globe because we are a globally employable force. And so as we see things develop in different conflicts, we measure ourselves against that to see whether or not that is something we can counter. And then we look into the future, always paying attention to where we think things are going from a warfighting perspective, so that we are trying to stay one step ahead, or many steps ahead, hopefully.
On the counter UAS front, is MADIS or LMADIS, are those systems being used at all in this exercise?
So we are not using either of those systems during this exercise.
Okay. And is the ACV being incorporated in any way?
The ACV is not being incorporated in this exercise.
Okay. Can you speak to, is there a specific sort of geographic focus with this exercise? Of course, we're landing in the U.S., but is there a specific theater that you have in mind when you do this?
No, there's not a specific theater, but the way we look at it, Admiral Patchell talked about the littoral space. Another way to describe that is it's hundreds of miles inland and hundreds of miles at sea, but it's where around the globe you have the majority of the world's population and critical infrastructure. That's where it exists. And often you have key waterways, so straits of different straits that we know of across the globe, which reside in every theater. And so this exercise is looking at contested littoral space, in particular those areas where you may have some kind of strategic waterway.
littoral mobility is a big deal for the Marine Corps. Can you speak to kind of the amphibious readiness issue? Are you, do you have the capabilities that you need to be mobile? Is there, or what are you missing? What do you need most, I guess, looking forward in terms of that mobility?
Yeah, I think we have two U.S. naval warships out here today, the USS New York and USS Oak Hill. Our ability over the next month to use these two assets to get Marines on board them. Some Marines for the first time, and some have been on ship many times. But just learning to live on ship, how to operate from the sea, ashore, and then back and forth is key. So having these ships for a month to do that, to test our ability to operate as an individual and collectively is huge. And so this is a great opportunity for us.
And you mentioned this a little bit, but could you talk briefly about the network communication strategy between ships?
Well, I think, as Admiral Pastor said, like our naval partners, the U.S. Navy, and our NATO partners are all extremely important to us. But we are on a continuum that goes back years and will go years into the future. So every time we exercise together, we're tweaking our networks, our network diagrams, as we look at what we have now and what we will invest in the future to make sure that we can share data. So this is just another step in refining what we've been doing for many years.
Could you give us just a real brief rundown of the vehicles or other capabilities that are coming ashore in this landing?
Yeah, I think what you've seen are U.S. LCUs, and our coalition partners have a smaller connector. You've seen a lot of Marines from both countries, the Netherlands and the United States Marine Corps, coming ashore. And then the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, which is our replacement for the Humvee. I think you've seen those come ashore here as well. Further on in the exercise, we'll have some additional aviation assets. We'll establish some forward arming and refueling points up and down the East Coast, which allows ship airplanes to come from ship ashore to rearm, refuel, and continue in the fight. So capabilities like that we would be using as we execute distributed maritime operations, expeditionary advanced base operations.
And did you say that these ships are coming down from Maine?
We're going that way.
Going that way.
Yeah.
Got it.
How many years have you been a part of the Atlantic Alliance?
Well, Atlantic Alliance is the largest exercise that has been conducted in the Eastern Seaboard in many years. And so, but historically, before this, we had Bold Alligator, and we had other amphibious exercises that we conducted. But I think Atlantic Alliance, this is the first iteration of it.
First time it's here.
The first time we're doing it here off of Camp Lejeune and then up the Eastern Seaboard. And if I could correct myself on one thing, we may have El Mattis further on in the exercise, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
How important is it to have it here at Camp Lejeune the first year?
I'm sorry?
How important is it to have it here at Camp Lejeune for the first year?
Well, I think it's important because as this exercise goes on, it's going to become more complicated. And so what we do here, we're close to our home station here. It allows us to do a rehearsing at the small unit level and build up, making it from small units up to the admirals and the general at the MAGTF and the fleet level, so that as it gets more complicated up the Eastern Seaboard, we're prepared for that.